The following presentation is brought to you through the paid memberships of NotaryStars.com, the only notary training platform and resource library with over 150 hours of training on every loan product under the sun. Together with our sister website, OnlineNotariesPublic.com, which focuses on notaries who are pioneering in remote online notary, we strive to give you a safe place to ask questions, get answers, gain confidence in your notary career, and achieve success without overfabricating the truths about our industry. If you would like to support us, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, sharing this video with a colleague, or becoming a member and trusting us to help you achieve the level of success you desire.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm so glad that you were all able to join us today. Tonight is a very special session for general mentorship. Some of you have been invited by a little special email. Some of you are just here to make sure that you avoid errors. Tonight, we are doing something that we just started at the beginning of this year called Wipe the Slate Clean or Reset Your Quality Score. All of you that did receive a special email know who you are. There's no reason to call people out. I just want to let you guys know that we know how hard you work out in the field, and we know that you always want to do good. And I know that for those of you that didn't get the special email telling that you needed to attend the session, that you all want to do great. And believe me, I've made errors too. If we were perfect, nobody could afford us. At Unlimited Inc., we don't believe in damaging a notary's career to follow them around. Lots of signing services out there don't have a system in place. They just put a quality score ding on a notary and then they move on and it stays there forever. We don't want to do that to notaries. We know that a lot of you learn from your errors. So with this session tonight, we want to make sure that if you did receive a quality score ding, that it is removed. And by doing that, I'm going to ask you, and we would love for everybody to, but if you receive that special email, the way that you're going to get credit is Zoom is recording for attendance. It will also tell us if you have your camera on. We need to know that you are front facing, paying attention, making sure that you're absorbing the information. So if you can turn on your cameras, just because you have a camera on does not mean that you had an error. It could mean that you're supporting another notary. But I'm going to turn this over very quickly. Now, you guys probably know me, Ronnie with Notary Stars, and probably talk to me on the phone at Unlimited Inc. But a lot of you guys just hear a voice of Travis or only see him every so often. So if you're newer to the Notary Star community or you just started working with Unlimited Inc., I'm going to be turning this over to Travis Myers, who is my business partner at Unlimited Inc. Notary. I need to give you guys a little background about this guy. So all of this was by accident. What we have, Notary Stars Unlimited Inc., we had no idea. If you told me 10 years ago that I was going to turn a notary company into a multi-million-dollar company, I told you you were crazy. That will never happen. Boy, it went fast. And then, now we've got the Notary Stars community. But I want to tell you my story with Travis. So Travis was one of my top producing notaries in Arizona. And, he has a former background as a lender. And, I developed a relationship with him. No matter what I threw at Travis, he could get it done. He would tell me his limitations. He did come kind of ready-made, but he took Notary to Pro. He took Notary Stars. And if you go back and watch the original boot camps of Notary Stars, you'll actually see Travis talking and me sitting back in my chair going, I think we all should listen to this guy. And that was the moment that I started watching him intensely because he was showing his greatness. And I remember inviting him up. It was one night I was cooking dinner and I was trying to manage Unlimited Ink and I about cut my finger off because I couldn't juggle everything. And I called him and I said, I want you to come sit at my desk for 3 days. I'll pay you whatever it costs out in the field. And I want to see if you could look at this pipeline and help me manage this. And this is after I had already tried Beth, and she was like, I don't want to do that. She was like, that's not for me. And I knew we would work together one day. And then he came up, I got him a hotel near, he sat by my desk, he watched everything, we had dinner. And on that Friday night, he was like, I can do it. And I said, no, I need you to go home and have a nightmare about it. And then call me and tell me that if you want to be able to manage a pipeline like we have. Since the day Travis has come on, our company has doubled, even tripled its business. It's freed my hands to be able to work with you guys more at Notary Stars, teach a marketing class. And I have to tell you, I am not without fault, although it seems like I sit at the top a lot. Travis has been there not only as a friend, not only as a business partner, but as a friend. He really cares about how this company works. And because of him, we've been able to grow and keep growing. And so for those of you that don't get to see him as much, just like Beth is my work wife, Travis is my work brother. And I am welcoming him right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pin you up, Travis, and let you take us through the most common errors that notaries make and how we can avoid them.
All right. Thank you, Ronnie. There we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Travis. I'm the Director of Operations at Unlimited Inc. And I am pretty much the driving force behind our pipeline of orders every day. I do all the training for our staff, and I pretty much, monitor our pipeline of orders to make sure they go through as smoothly as possible. And if all of you don't know what a pipeline is, it's a term in real estate. It's pretty much, your book of orders. We call it the pipeline when I worked in lending. So when I was carrying, I think it was about 90 files from application to the closing, that was my pipeline of orders. But I really want to kind of go over today some of the common errors that I see on a daily basis, especially the ones that are really critical and are going to hold up funding. I looked at what I did last in this session, so I tried to switch it up a little bit and mentioning some instances and some errors that I've seen recently that really cause a lot of pain points. I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing. I've composed a couple of PDFs. So if anybody can't see or needs me to zoom in at any time, please let me know. Let me get the PDF up here. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with best practices. So your assignment, it is not complete unless the scans have been submitted. Do not let other assignments take priority over scanning a previous assignment back. Treat every assignment as if it were funding off of scans, same day, and know your funding date. That's a real big pain point for me because a lot of our clients, they fund off of the scans, same day. And I really want to stress that to all notary signing agents that when you take an assignment and it does require scan back, your signing is not complete until the scans have been provided. That's kind of the done deal till it ships after that. Now, you don't want to prioritize other signings over scans, especially if your scans are going to be funding same day, especially if you're working with companies like us that need to QA them, because we want to QA them and make sure that they're okay, because there might be enough time in the day to go back and make those corrections. Now, if you are just getting your feet wet in all of this and you have to drive back home and scan every time, just schedule your orders accordingly. Again, I really want to stress that as that's a high level of professionalism is to make sure you take care of your scans after the signing. Don't jump from appointment to appointment and let your scans get backed up. Also, know your funding date. Reach out to your contracting company or the title company if you're going direct and ask them what their expectations are, with funding. If that has to make cutoff same day, if they're funding off of the scans, some title companies, they will fund off the scan. Some of them have to have that package in hand. It really depends what their underwriting requirements are and as well as their state laws for that too. When you print the documents, look at the documents after you print them. You don't have to go one by one because it's a lot of pages, but skim through them and make sure the ink is pure and crisp and there are no fading issues with the print. Look at the text on the document to ensure none of the text is chopped off. And do not buy off-brand ink. Okay, there are some good off-brand ink companies out there that maybe you all have found some that work. But the problem with off-brand ink is it doesn't get on the paper very crisp a lot, and it falls off the paper too, especially when you put it in a scanner or when title scans in the package and they're industrial scanners and that ink heats up and it starts falling off the paper. So I know off-brand ink is a lot less expensive than buying like Brother brand ink or HP brand ink. But we just had a signing the other day and the notary, he went out and executed it. He scanned back and we looked at the scans and they looked great. He scanned in black and white. And sometimes when it happens, you can't really tell how bad the ink quality is. Well, he was the first side of a split signing. 3 days later, that signing takes place. The second side of it takes place in Vegas. Notary goes out there, does an excellent job, and scans back. And we look at the scans, and the print or the ink, it's literally falling off the paper. You can't make out some of the words on it. And the ink quality was so bad when she scanned her loose leaf certificates, the ink was transposing onto her scanner, and the scanner was putting it on her loose leaf certificates. So I had to bring that up the title, and unfortunately, that signing had to start all over again. And what I'll get upset for the most is not necessarily the print quality, but the first notary, he printed that closing package out and he knew how bad it was and continued with the signing and went on the ship and failed to mention anything. So don't do that, because that just shows that you don't have any care for somebody's closing. If you get a bad print and it's going to delay the signing, it's definitely best to call us or any contracting company. It's better to be late and then get the printing issue fixed instead of going out there with a package that's got print streaks all the way through it, and ink falling off the paper. If it looks bad, make sure let's get it printed correctly, because these folks, a lot of these closings have been in escrow for 30 days, 60, sometimes 90. And that's not a good thing for somebody to show up at the end with a bad print and documents, and especially when they know that they're printed bad and they continue with the signing. So make sure you have a good print. Last, have focus at the signing table. Mistakes you make can cause a delay in closing. Understand who is a party to the document and guide the signers to execute the documents correctly, as this is your responsibility, not theirs, and seek training. I want to stress that the most. And as Ronnie mentioned, I had a background in lending, but as long as you always recognize you are going to be a student, you will be an expert as well. Experts are always students. Train, train, train. Know these documents up and down. As I mentioned, I came from lending. I knew what a non-borrowing spouse was. I knew the non-borrowing spouse, didn't sign the note. They didn't sign the 4506Cs. That was, very easy terminology for me and their responsibility on the documents at that time. But, a lot of you are going, into this without any, real estate experience. So here at Notary Stars, we offer that training that's going to get you birthed and, get you success at the closing table. So I'm going to go over 3 different types of documents, and I'm also going to kind of have a focus on split signings today with some of these. Because if there are 2 types of signings that cause the most re-signs here at Unlimited Ink, is power of attorney signings and split signings. Split signings is probably number 1. Trust me, every time we get the scan back from the first notary, I'm holding my breath. And we put good instructions on these orders, what to do and what not to do, and they still come back executed incorrectly. And they are probably the number 1 turnaround for a full re-sign. And they're very, very easy to execute, and I hope to make sense of these today. So first document we're going to look at is a deed of trust and a note. And this error, it's not related to a split signing, but I see this one quite a bit. So a lot of the deeds and the writers and the notes, they're going to have initials down at the bottom. So when you get to these documents, these are the single 2 most important documents you're going to have in a closing package. If these are executed incorrectly, it is a guaranteed halt at funding. So when you get to the deed of trust or the mortgage, whatever side of the country you're on, or typically the East Coast calls it a mortgage and the West Coast calls it the deed of trust. I don't know where the cutoff is in the U.S., but it's really the same document. I think just foreclosure is handled a little differently between the 2. But down here at the bottom, you always want to identify if there's initial lines present. Okay, that's the first question you always want answered after you present the document. Hey, are there initial lines, and do the signers need to initial them? What I want to stress to all the notary signing agents is don't just have all people at the closing table initial this line right when you see it, okay? Best workflow for it, and thing you want to remember is nobody initials the document unless they are a party to it. And this is how I teach my QA team too, when we are QAing these initial lines, is I tell them, identify, are there initial lines present? If yes, we're going to go to that signature page. How many people do we have signing the document? We've got Jane Doe and Patrick Starr. That's 2 people. So we need to have initials from Jane and Patrick. And they're going to go back up to the top and they're going to make sure Jane Doe and Patrick Starr initialed on all those initial lines. I won't go through all 16 pages, but I did put them on each. And I also train them. The signature page, that is definitely the one that gets missed the most. So when you're having Jane and Patrick initial this document, have them initial the signature page first. Don't break your focus on those initial lines with having them sign the document and you notarize. Just finish up the initials, because this is probably 9 times out of 10 the one that comes back. You also back miss. You also want to be careful, because sometimes the notarial section on the deed is on the next page and it's separate from the signatures, and that'll have an initial line on it. And sometimes there's a random page after, the very last page that doesn't have anything to do with the signers or the notarial section that will still have an initial line on it. I see those on I believe a manufactured home writer quite a bit, but just watch that one on the signature page. So you've got Jane signed here, Patrick signed here, and the notary notarized. Guys, I'm definitely aware the expiration date on this fake stamp is way out of date, but it's the one I have saved on Adobe, so it's just for an example. Next, get to the note. All right, so again, this is the one that I see quite a bit, because put yourself at the signing table, right? Like, you're sitting down, you've got 2 people in front of you. Your first intuition is, okay, I got initial lines, these 2 people need to initial it. But you get to that signature page and only Jane has a signature line on that document, right? More than likely, this is a non-borrowing spouse situation where Patrick is the non-borrower and Jane is the borrower. Well, Patrick, he's not a party to the note. He's only on title. He's only going to be signing and initialing the deed of trust and the rider. However, Jane is both going to be signing, initialing the deed of trust and the note, as well as the rider. So this one we see quite a bit. It'll come back. We'll see 2 sets of initials, and then we'll just see 1 signature here. So guys and gals, the deed of trust, note, and the rider, if you see initial lines are present, before you have them start initialing, make sure you go to that signature page and see who signs it. Also be careful too. Sometimes this is in reverse. It doesn't happen as much, but you'll have Jane and Patrick on the note, and then only Jane will be on the deed. Typically that situation is going to be a co-signer. Maybe dad signing for a son, helping him qualify for the loan, but he's not going to be on title. He'll just be on the note. So again, best practice, just go to that signature page, see who initials it, and make sure that's the only person initialing on that line. And watch that signature page, because that's the one we see that gets missed the most. This is really painstaking too with the split signing, because keep in mind, you got somebody signing in one state, package ships off, and the signing has to happen again. So if the document gets executed incorrectly, then we got to start that whole process all over again. And usually it's a 2 or 3 at least a 2 to 3 day delay on closing. So be really attentive on that. Okay, next is we are starting to see more refinances. I'm gonna try to get through this quickly and efficiently, because I can talk for 2 hours on it. But this one here with refinances is the notice of right to cancel. Right here is your NNA rescission calendar. Guys and gals, download this, keep this on your phone, keep a printed copy on you at all times. This is your safety net, because as interest rates go lower, the more refinances are going to come back. You're going to see the notice of right to cancel on refinance on a primary residence, reverse mortgage, and home equity line of credit. It does not apply to investment properties or second homes. If you're ever wondering if it's an investment property, second home, or primary residence, you can go to the 1003, the long name, the uniform residential loan application, and there's a section on there that states, what kind of what the property is being declared as. But the NNA rescission calendar, this is super helpful because it is the notary signing agent's job to make sure the transaction date and the rescission date on the notice of right to cancel is executed correctly. Because you're going to come across all sorts of scenarios with these dates. They won't be in there at all. Sometimes the transaction date will be right and the rescission date will be wrong. Sometimes the transaction date will be wrong and the rescission date will be right. This calendar here, so we're sitting on May 12th. We're going to just focus on that date. That tells you the transaction date on the right to cancel needs to read the 12th. It ends on the 15th. So that'll tell you the rescission date needs to end on the 15th. If it says anything but that, there's some actions that you have to provide on this document. And if all of you in here can be experts at executing this document, and the title company knows, and your signing service knows, you are going to get used over and over and over and over again. I assure you, if I were to send out like 20 of these orders right now, like maybe 1 or 2 of them would come back executed correctly. Granted, if there were date modifications required on the document, it would be a very low turnaround. We put specific instructions in there to try and hedge that. But I want you all really to pay attention to this one because this is a big pain point with title companies and signing services because this document does get returned incorrectly quite a bit. So here's our notice to right to cancel. So this one I just put correct as is. So up here, this is going to be your transaction date. Right here is going to be your rescission date. For this sake, it's just already pre-printed. We'll just say that's what the blue means. So you don't need to do anything. All right. Signing date is always the transaction date. Rescission date is 3 business days, excluding Sunday and federal holidays. Don't try to manually count. That's the whole purpose of the rescission calendar. It gives you that nice cheat sheet. So all the signer has to do is sign and date down here at the bottom. This is also what I call an irreparable document. Unless they really wish to cancel, I haven't had it happen in my 5 years here. But make sure they don't date here and sign on the wish to cancel box. If they do that, just give them that copy and have it re-executed. You don't want to pull the old strike initial and change on this section because it will get rejected. This document needs to come back perfectly. Okay. Next one, you need to add the dates. So this is where it's really critical as a notary signing agent to know that that transaction date section is right up here and the rescission date is right here. So it is blank. You have to make sure that the signers, I always have the signers write the dates in. I don't touch this document. It is not my space. I direct the signers what to write and what to initial. So if I was at the closing table, I would say, Jane, today is the 12th. That is going to be our transaction date. I'm going to need you to write in May 12th, 2025. And you all know what's coming next. And initial, all right? Anytime there's a change on the document or a write-in from the signers, it always must be initialed. That, sometimes they come back and the dates are written in, but they're not initialed. That's another big one. Just always have them initial the write-in of the dates. Now I need to know what the rescission date is, right? The transaction date's always easy. That's the day you're signing. It won't ever be any different. The rescission date, 5/15. You don't have to manually count. And I'm going to tell Jane, please write in May 15th, 2025. And initial. That easy, right? You got your cheat sheet right here. It tells you what to have the signer write in there. And always make sure they write in, or excuse me, they initial the date that they wrote in. And then Jane, sign, date down here. All right, date corrections. You're going to get this a lot. All right. A lot of times these documents are published days before the signing, and sometimes the lender doesn't update the dates on the document. That's where you come in as a professional signing agent to make sure that the signer makes adjustments to these dates. And it's super easy. You tell the signer to put one line through the date. You don't want to have them cover up the other text. Write in today's date and initial. That easy. Down here for the rescission date, one line through it. A lot of times there won't be enough room to squeeze in. They're not going to be that picky about it. Go to your rescission calendar, the 15th. And initial. As long as it's close enough, they're going to accept it. And then Jane, you sign in date here. All right, split signings. So these can be a little tricky, but they're super easy. All right, we have Jane Doe and Patrick Starr. All right, non-borrowing spouses, they always sign the notice of right to cancel as well. So let's say we're signing Jane on the 12th, 5/12/2025. Transaction date's already correct. Rescission date 5/15/2025, already correct. Jane is going to sign down here. So let's say this document makes overnight cutoff, and now Patrick has to sign it on the 13th. So how do we handle that? We can't have Patrick striking this right here, right? Because this recognizes Jane's signature. So second notary, very simple. Patrick, write in 5/13/2025. Initial there. And Patrick, write in 5/13/2025. An initial there. And Patrick is going to sign in date for the 13th. That easy. Now, this will work the same if this date was incorrect. You know, Jane would strike that date initial and write in her transaction date and initial next to it. And the next day, Patrick is going to just write in the date and initial next to his date. Super easy. But again, we go over this one in great detail and Notary Stars. So to anybody on this meeting, this is definitely a document you want to learn. This is one of those trick documents, right? It takes a lot more attention than just, hey, sign a date on these signature lines. It is your responsibility as a notary signing agent to make sure the transaction date and rescission date line up with the day they are signing on. The lender and the title company, those are their expectations of you. That is not part of your job as a notary, but it is part of your job as a signing agent.
So you have a bunch of signing agents in the audience that are doing their job and they're telling you Patrick's rescission date is incorrect. It should be the 16th.
Oh, thank you.
Yay,
Anybody
we got a good crew.
Anybody want to send me a notary air right now? All right, good job. I want you all on my assignments.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so right here, 13th, 16th. That's what I get for not looking at the rescission calendar. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, split signings. All right, so these are a big turnaround with a full re-sign. Guys and gals, these are super easy to execute. You know, don't get confused over them. Don't make it more complicated than it really is. All right. So here we have a couple of signature lines. You sign Jane on 5/12. Okay. First things first, never, ever, ever strike a signature line. I don't care what anybody tells you. Never do it. The only time I've had a title company want one of our notaries to strike a signature line is when they accidentally put some random name on a document that didn't belong there. Okay. Because let's say I'm executing Jane's signature and then I go and I strike Patrick's signature line. Well, where's Patrick supposed to sign tomorrow? So leave the signature line alone. Don't ever strike it. So everybody in here, how many ever you are, 200, 300, please raise your right hand and say, I promise I will never strike a signature line. Remember that. Because that will cause, that's an automatic full resign. All right. Okay, your notarial section. So how do we handle this in our notarial section? So I've already pre-filled this out, except for one part. So remember what your notarial section is, okay? Your notarial section is you speaking to the powers that may be of who stood before you and willingly signed this document, right? In the most general terms. I know there's other things with oaths and all that, but the notarial section is you speaking. So it's like you speaking to the lender and you speaking to title, like, hey, this is the person that stood before me and signed this document. Now, with real estate closings, a lot of the time, the names are already going to be pre-printed in the notarial sections, right? So we've got Jane Doe and Patrick Starr. You know, a lot of lenders don't set up their notarial section with, separate acknowledgement or separate jurat per signer. So you have to make that adjustment. Super easy. Who do we have? Jane, right? Yep, Jane. There's Patrick. You only strike the name of the person that did not appear before you in your notarial section. It's just it's a quick, easy adjustment you have to make to your notarial section. So just keep this in mind if you are on the first side of a split signing, or even the second side if you're using the notarial certificate inside the package. If there are two people involved, well, there's got to be two people involved, otherwise it wouldn't be a split signing. More than likely, you're going to have to make an adjustment, and it's super easy. So again, never strike a signature line and make the adjustment in your notarial section, because Patrick Starr didn't appear before you, and acknowledge that he executed this instrument on his own free will. All right, second notary. I'm not going to fill this whole thing out, but okay, so Patrick, you signed it on 5/13/2025. Well, the first notary already used the notarial certificate. So what does the second notary do? You grab a loose leaf from your bag. Guys and gals, make sure you carry around like 20 of each, okay? Because you will need to use them. Remember, I won't fill out the notarial certificate. I hope all of you know how to do that. But you'll put the state and county where the notarization took place. You'll notarize for the day of your notarization. All right. Don't worry about what the first notary put in here. You're only worried about your notarization. So 13th day of May, 2025. Before me, Travis Myers. Anytime you see the words before me, it's always your name after that. If there's a blank line, we see that quite a bit. Is the notary will put the signer's name. Just remember, see the words before me and a blank line after it. It's always your name. So Travis Myers, comma, notary public. It's already got it here. Personally appeared, and then you write in your signer's name. Check the appropriate boxes. Sign. Optional box. My favorite. Guys and gals, if you have an optional box on a real estate closing, at a bare minimum, just put in the document name. Trust me on this one. You don't have to put the page numbers. You don't have to put the other signers' names. But if this package gets dropped or mixed up, or if you have a somebody that wants to misappropriate one of your notarial certificates, always put the document name there, because that's going to help piece this package back together, and it at least knows, which one of these, 20 notarized documents this loose leaf belongs to. And that's it. And I'll open the floor for questions.
Well, we need to get some hands up in the gallery and some questions going in the chat. So Travis, you already have one up in the gallery. It's Judith. Judith, if you want to unmute and ask your question, we're ready for you. Can you unmute? There you go.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He was sounding like he was away for a while, so let me know if it messes up. Okay, on the right to cancel form, after we write in the dates, we are giving the customer 2 copies, correct?
Correct. It should be 2 executed copies.
And then we're bringing back in the file an executed copy.
Yes. Yeah. So I've got some clients and we have instructions that want it done a little differently, but standard protocol is you bring 3 to the closing table, you execute 1 to return, and you leave 2 copies with them that are also executed. Okay. Now, I do have some clients that want all 3 of them back. We'll put that in the instructions if that's, we only have 2 that require that. But yes, as long as you have 1 executed copy from each signer, because sometimes the right to cancel doesn't have both of their names on the same page. Sometimes they'll each have their own. But yes, as long as you're returning, 1 executed one per signer, that'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Magda. Hi, Magda. How are you?
Okay. Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for the opportunity. My question is, if I finish my files with my clients and I want to scan back, do you guys check that scan back immediately to make sure that I don't have mistakes? Or do I have to wait a couple hours, or how that work?
Very good question. Now, I am very insistent on my QA team. That thing needs to be done in 10 to 15 minutes. All right. And on busy days of the week, when they get backed up, I'm hopping in there and helping them burn through those. But no, they're not going to, because we got to have those dropped. We don't want to be the reason that the notary is missing drop. We know you have a job to do and money to make. But if you are buttoned up against cutoff and need an emergency review or anything, just call us and text us and say, hey, my cutoff here is in 30 minutes. I just finished the signing. It took an extra 30 minutes. Can you review this right now? And we're always happy to accommodate that. But yeah, and if scans are taking longer than I would say 15 minutes from the time you submit them, email us through the order, because my communications managers will bring that up to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, guys and gals, I like to get stuff done. So, we're not going to sit there and, take 2 hours to review your scan. We're very versed in these documents. We see easily over 100 of them a day. I can probably tell you every lender's, nuance on their docs.
Here's a tough question in the chat for you, Travis. Terry May wants to know if you have a QA checklist that you can share.
No, I don't have a QA checklist that I share. So typically this is what happens is my QA team, they're going to go through the entire quality, the entire closing package. They're going to look for missed signatures, and they're going to look for missed dates, and they're going to look for incorrect notarization. That's the outside of that, we also look at the Patriot Act, all ID data input. the notice of right to cancel, and any correction that requires the notary to go back to the closing table has to get approved by a manager at Unlimited Inc. So, I don't let just anybody on my quality assurance team just call the notary and say, hey, you got to fix this. That will go through a manager. But no, I don't have a checklist. It wouldn't be efficient. They know the documents up and down, and we all have group chats that we converse with, and we're going back and forth on everything if there's any uncertainty.
And Travis, I think it's important to point out that even if we did have checklists, although most documents are, very similar between clients, we have certain clients that have different, things that we're looking for and those sorts of things. So I think it's important to point out too that if we gave you a checklist, it would be an enormous checklist with 450 clients. But we write instructions for every order, as most good signing services do, provide you a good checklist of what we need. I find that a lot of the errors that we find with notaries are, I would say 90, correct me if I'm wrong, 95 to 99% of the errors that we find are actually written into the instructions properly, do it this way. And would you agree with that, Travis, that most of the errors we find are from written instructions?
That and most of them are like simple stuff. Missing initials on struck, state, and county. Like that one we get all the time. That's definitely the easiest fix. But yeah, I would the most common errors that we repetitively get, definitely they're in our instructions, because I write the instructions in alignment with the errors that we get the most, in case something comes back and the notary states, well, I didn't know, you didn't tell me, and I show them right there, you're supposed to know it anyway. But yes, I guarantee I have a instruction for most of the more complicated documents that we see returned executed incorrectly, like right to cancel, loan application. Those two are definitely on the high end.
And then I just want to remind, as you said at the beginning of the session, we did this session last quarter, and we're doing it now again. You said that you had changed it up. So for everybody that's got their hand raised before anybody else goes, I just want to drop this in the chat one more time. I posted last session into the chat. Now, we do have the most common errors going over at Notary Stars. And if you are not a member of Notary Stars, I do want to remind you that Beth and Manuel have worked very hard to film 35 plus different loan files in it, and it's different loan products and variances like power of attorney, reverse mortgage, home equity lines of credit, seller files, pre-seller signings, you name it, we've got the training on it. Like Travis said, I love that you said that you'll always want to be an expert, but if you're trying to get free education, and which is okay, because dollars are dollars, we got that first session that we did into the chat tonight as well, and it only benefits us to share it with you. So please, grab that link that I just posted. I'll post it again because I see people chatting. So I want to make sure everybody has a chance to go back and watch last session as well. Let's get back to the questions up here. I see Joycelyn has
one quick thing I wanted to really mention really quickly, Ronnie, before we go to the next hand, because we've had a few people in the chat had questions about it. What you guys need to know about that notice of right to cancel is it's governed by Regulation Z of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Act. When you have companies like Travis said, he's got a couple of them that require all three of the copies to be sent back in, you still by law have to leave 2 executed copies with your signers. So if you get instructions that tell you have them sign 3, send 3 back in your package, you still have to have them sign 2 more each, because that's what the law reads. Just so you know that, regardless of what your instructions are, follow your instructions, but also uphold that Regulation Z.
Thank you, Miss Beth. And now,
Joycelyn.
Yeah, there we
Now
go.
we're ready. There you go.
Hopefully this isn't a bad question, but I just was going through my email and I saw this. I was not on there from the beginning. I really don't know what I have on signing order for demarcation or whatever it's called, but if I miss part of it, is that it? Just, I mean, it'd be nice if I have any to wipe the slate clean.
Well, so I can answer that question for you. So we remove all of the Unlimited Ink has a system. So when you make an error, it does go out as a public error to let other signing services know. And by the way, Notary Stars is shared by multiple signing services out there. They pull from our list. They're looking at Notary. So we do put a quality score on for 30 days. We have a dedicated team member to remove any after 30 days. However, your profile still has with Unlimited Ink a list in our right before it pops up on the order screen to say before you schedule this notary, it will remind them your entire notary list of errors from day one. That's what we're wiping clean, including that quality score. So if you have a demerit, like that will get wiped clean, but your entire list gets wiped. So other setting services only see that for 30 days. We're probably the only company that removes it after 30 days. And we do this because that's how Amrock operates. If you make an error with Amrock, Quicken Loans, everybody wants to be on working with them. If you make an error with them, there's no orders for 30 days. So you'll pretty much know if you've been working with us regularly. And then if you make a quality score, you won't be offered any signings within 30 days. Does that make sense? I want to make sure I answered your question there.
Yeah, but I guess ultimately at the end of the day, it's still on there for everybody else forever.
No, not from Unlimited Ink.
But everyone else.
Yes, well, we're working on that. Believe me, I'm working in the background with signing order and other signing services to understand the responsibility of that. There may be something coming in the near future that's in the project queue for signing order. I've been advocating for them to have a set time that the signing services, and if they don't remove it, that it automatically gets removed. Because I don't think that that's fair. Nobody should have something carrying that around. And if you'd like to support me in that, anybody can send an email to support@signingorder.com to make a suggestion. Don't make it about you, make it about the entire notary community, and just say, hey, I understand that you guys take suggestions. We would love for quality scores to be able to be number one, seen, and number two, have a time limit where they fall off, whether it be 30, 60, or 90 days. They are open and receptive to that, but they prioritize things that they think are going to make their platform better. And I tell this to you guys, whether it be Snapdocs, signing orders, ZigSig, everyday notary, no matter what, close wise, you are a stakeholder in that platform because you are the workforce behind that platform. So if you believe in what I just said, you can send emails to their support and advocate for those kinds of changes.
So I just want to say, because I had a couple weird, I mean, I'm sure they're still on there, reviews that did not even apply to me. One of them said I was a no call, no show, which has never happened. So I'm not really sure why that was on there. And then I had something else one time that said I didn't know what a deed of trust was. And I was like, I've been doing this for 20 years as of September. I've known what a deed of trust is for a very long time. So I was just like, where are these weird reviews coming from? And I actually emailed signing order and they gave me no support whatsoever.
That's because there's a system, like if I go in to try to look at your profile right now and I click on it to say, hey, I would like to, look at this notary's feedback, there's a contract that pops up and it says before I can look at that feedback, I have to, promise that I'm not going to tell anyone. If I tell anybody what your feedback is, then I'm going to lose my ability to see it. And just so you guys know, that whole contract that pops up for every signing service in the country is because of me. You can ask the owner that built the platform. He put that there because I would call notaries and be like, oh, they gave a negative review. What are we going to do to get this turned around? Because I don't feel that it's the right thing for a notary not to be able to see their feedback.
Agree. I had someone tell me and they're like, I can't tell you, don't tell anyone that I told you this, but same thing.
Yeah, here's the thing is that, where are you located in St. George? Here's the thing is, I will tell you, and this is something that I'm also advocating for, and I don't want to speak for signing order, but let's just say that you worked with me and then I had a really bad problem with you. I could call 5 signing services and say, don't work with that notary. and they would be like, okay, what happened? And then they might put negative feedback or what have you. There's a lot of that going on in this industry, and I think that those reviews need to be tightened up a lot more. Generally, a good signing service like us are too busy to go out and just look up, notaries profiles and play pettiness. But I will tell you that, my team is also trained that if you have, 5+ blacklist against you, or a block list, meaning that people have over time, not just in one day put it on there, that you're no longer eligible, because you know what they say, if you've been married 9 times, hell, maybe it's you. So after a certain amount of block lists, they just add up. But if you've been told that you have negative feedback on there, you usually can pinpoint who it was by looking at the date of your orders and who you worked with that day. And that's why it's good to kind of keep a good record. So, I'm sorry that happened to you. I just looked, we don't have any negative with you at all. So, there's nothing negative from us, but I can't see what you're talking about. But I didn't tell you.
I still don't know
I didn't
who
tell her,
wrote
don't take
them.
my ability.
Yeah, I don't know who wrote them still, but because I can't see them. But I don't think I think it's ridiculous that people can just write whatever they want. You can't even see it because, like I said, those were false. They were fake reviews, and so it's not right for them to be on there. So
I'm advocating for that as well. I do believe that no one should be able to write a review about you unless you've actually worked for them. So there should be a way for them to lock it. Like if you accept an order, and I think that also, this is just personal, that no one should be able to write a review on you unless within a certain amount of time. That means within 3 days after or 7 days after, I should be able to place that review, or I should not be able to go back and place that review. Because what happens if you work with a colleague of mine and I had a great experience, but then they call and say, oh, it was a bad experience. Not that wouldn't happen here. We don't do that here, but that can happen. And I do know that there are some cliquey signing service owners out there that march all in a group. And if you make one mad, you make them all mad. And if anybody wants to know, I have 5 or 6 or 7 blacklists against me. Never have ever done an order in signing order just because of who I am. People go and blacklist me because they don't want me to see their clients' orders. But look, it didn't stop me and it won't stop you either.
but I have seen a decrease ever since that happened. So like significant. So
I will tell you that I've seen people who have had way more than what you have come out swinging on the other side, and do not let jealousy get in your way. It could just be somebody who's jealous.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully we can get some of these issues fixed. I'm glad you're working on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Travis has got 5 more hands up and we are out of time almost. So let's go to Samson. If you want to unmute Samson Badal and ask your question.
I have 3 questions. One on the NOC, Beth, that you said even if the instruction says you have 3 copies, but then you get 1. Now, is that in the state of Arizona that you said, or that's the federal law?
Regulations is a federal regulation.
Okay, so applies to all 50 states.
It does. So what I'm telling you is how you need to perform under that federal regulation by making sure you leave 2 signed copies for your signers each. If your instructions say they need 3 back in the package, then you've got to reprint some extra rights to cancel so that you've got enough for them to sign and send it back, right?
Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask Travis a question, but then I'm going to ask Ronnie so he can do that. Ronnie, would you be kind enough to put those names of those signing agency you said, Notary Everyday, Zigzag, or somebody? I couldn't write them down. Would you be kind to send them through chat?
Yes, I can type them out. Kirsten, can you put all of those in there? There's 5: Closewise, Zig, Signing Order,
Snapdocs,
the clone of Signing Order, the new one that just came out, Notary Everyday, and Zig.
Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate it. And my last question to Travis. Just recently, a few days ago, I completed an order with one of the agencies, and the lady came back, package looks nice, flawless, go ahead and drop it off. But then I have a question on an acknowledgement that you actually stamped your name saying that so-and-so name, like my name, Samson Badal, and then underneath that stamp, it says Notary Public. On the line that it says before me, comma, Notary Public, she said, well, it already says Notary Public. Why are you stamping that says again Notary Public? I said, well, you know what? I've done hundreds of packages. You're the only one so far telling me that don't do that. And then also, this is a stamp that I bought from NNA. So what is your take on that, Travis?
Yeah, good question. What state are you in?
California.
Okay, yeah. So this is my recommendation because I have had those kicked back where it has the notary's name, comma, notary public on it. And it all depends too how picky the county is. In California, the recorders are the ones that are rejecting that. Riverside County is like the worst out of all of them. LA County is a close second. So yes, I have had post-closing issues where the title company comes back wanting the deed re-executed because the notary stamp said, John Doe, comma, notary public, and right after that, it already had the title of the officer, notary public, pre-printed. So technically, it is written twice, and in California, it's just supposed to read your name and the title of the officer one time. So I would probably recommend getting an alternate stamp that just has your name on it, because the correct way to do it is the way that your state says for you to fill out your acknowledgement, and it should just have your name, comma, notary public, and that's the sure shot for it not to come back. Because I've gotten that a lot too, where I've had notaries like, oh, I've done this, 500 times, 1,000 times. I've never had an issue. It's going to come up at one point or another, and it depends how picky that recorder is going to be that day and who is recording those documents. But yes, I get that issue all the time in California, with a plethora of other issues I deal with in California that I don't have in a lot of other states.
But if the acknowledgement doesn't have comma Notary Public, it's okay to stamp
Absolutely.
so name
Yeah.
Notary
Absolutely.
Public underneath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ron, stamp or write, however you want to do it. That's fine.
The good thing is that I understand what you're saying, and that it was not recordable. It was just a disbursement as to where they want the funds to be proceed to send. So
okay,
I didn't still get those names of the closing. I think she's working on it. Okay.
Okay, those should be in the chat. Double check or keep your eye on the chat, and if they're not in there in the next couple of minutes, we'll try again.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And all three
Good
of you
question.
appreciate for what you're doing. Thank you.
All righty. Ken, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Okay. Thank you for taking my call. The reason I come here this evening is to see how I can wipe my Slate claim, because I know some companies have gone to blacklist me for no reason. The companies said that I did not drop the package on time, and they just all kinds of excuses which I don't understand. So how can I wipe my Slate claim? Because right now, maybe about I do signing now maybe about 1 or twice a week, which is not really, it doesn't really help me at all. So, and I know something is wrong, especially with signing order. I don't even get, if I respond to signing order, nothing comes back. When I get some signing request, but when I respond, nothing happens. It's like something is blocked somewhere. So I think I've talked to Ronnie before, and right now I don't really know exactly what to do. Maybe he can just advise me on what to do. How can I wipe my claim, my Slate claim? Because I try to do my best, but still it's like I'm not doing it. I'm not satisfied some of the companies.
So here's the thing, okay? With when I'm looking at, you know, our relationship, I'm seeing a good relationship. I'm not seeing a bad relationship at all. And, you know, I don't see anything for you to be really worried about. Now, I will tell you that you're in a pretty competitive area. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're in, looks like you're in Newberry, Florida, correct?
Sir, yes, yes, that's
So,
correct.
in this area, you're going to be in a little bit more of a competitive area. And what I do see when I look at your profile is, you know, you need to add in any training that you've done. So as the market's getting busier, I don't see that you've taken the time to list any of the training that you have in your profile. If you're a member of Notary Stars, we have the way for you to link your profile to your signing order profile, which stands out really well in your profile. Kirsten went over that recently. We have videos and the welcome emails about it. If you've taken any of the training out there, NNA, all of those things, you want to make sure that you've put it all in there. That would be the only thing that I think my team or any team that was looking for the best notary in the area, you have a good order count versus, you know, any possible mishaps in the past. I would say that it's literally just probably that they're so competitive in Florida that you may want to take any opportunity for any training that you have taken to get that put into your profile.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think I'm happy. I'm happy what I heard from you now. Thank you so much. I'll
Thank
work
you.
on. Thank you, sir.
All righty, moving right along here, Miss Danielle. Go ahead, unmute. There you go.
Hi. All right. So I have one question because I'm very new and I was looking at the document, I was going through it, and I see that when there are two signatures, for example, the transaction date, the second signature, you go from the transaction date for that rescission date. If
Correct.
if there were three people, then you'd go from that third person, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I had. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
So ultimately, that first signer is going to get a really long rescission period just by default because the order cannot close until the last person with the latest rescission expiration date expires.
Okay. Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little bit to it as well. And you know, it doesn't really apply to the whole split signing situation, but you know, if you get Jane Jane has her own signature line on her own right to cancel, and Patrick has his own right to cancel. Just always pay attention to who's signing the specific document itself, because you don't want like Patrick initialing the struck rescission date and transaction date if you know, they have to change it on the right to cancel that Jane only signed. He would only do it on his. So that signature line will always tell you who should be initialing that change or that write-in as well. Just easiest rule of thumb with the right to cancel: if the dates have to be changed or manually written in, the person that signs on that document always initials that circumstance.
And then, guys, we've got 5 hands raised, so I just want to say that we're going to get those hands raised. But before we do, I want to bring up one other thing that just happened today. I've been warning about it for years, but before I say that, I did just put into the chat. I'll put it again if I can find it, or if Kirsten can help me out. I just dropped a code into the chat. If you have not yet trained with us at Notary Stars, we really have your best interest. It's the sandbox, so to speak, so that you can get in there and train and play. I just gave 50% off your first month at any membership level. That if you're wanting to come in and work with us, it doesn't matter if you want to do the marketing level. It doesn't matter if you want to do that. You're 50% off your first month. We'd love to have you. We'd love to be a part of your journey. I want to share this story with you because I actually saw this happen today. Travis and I, sometimes our clients don't even need a copy of the IDs, but we always compare the ID to the signature line and how the signer's signing. And we had a case today, and I've said this for years. I have clients that'll take it just because you notarized it, whether you took a correct ID or not. And they're looking to close their loan because guess what? It is not the title company's responsibility to identify the signer. And today, another signing service that I work closely with told me that they tried to warn the title company that the incorrect ID was taken because they took like a public card or something. And the title company was like, that's not my fault. I won't be the one go to jail. That was literally, and I said, you should print that email out and use it for training because I've been saying that for years. The title company literally responded and said, that's not my problem. If something goes wrong, I won't be the one to go to jail. And so, it is your responsibility when collecting those IDs to understand what you can take, if the name matches, if it's a passable ID, and if something goes wrong. And in a world full of fraud right now, you're the first line of defense. So if you do something that lets fraud slip through, they will blame you and they will go after your errors and omissions insurance. And there are very few notaries who can recover after something like that happened to continue on in a career. So let's get these last 5 hands that are up right here. Mr. Guy,
Ready.
you are up next.
Ronnie, I wrote down about 2/3 of the page of questions and comments, and there's not time to go through those. But there are 1 or 2 that I would like to highlight. The first one, Travis, you said right to rescission doesn't include Sunday or federal holidays. President Trump has just executive ordered a couple of new federal holidays, and he has said that these 2 holidays will not apply in the ways that we normally see federal holidays. Banks won't be closed on those days. And I don't remember some of the other items that he mentioned, but not all federal holidays now seem like they will fall under this guideline of Sunday and federal holidays.
Watch your rescission calendar for sure.
That's
Yeah,
actually,
and when in doubt, ask your contracting company about it too. As I call title all the time about stuff like that. Like, hey, got Juneteenth coming up. You counting this or not? Like, hey, Christmas, it's falling on a Sunday. Are you counting that Monday too? Like circumstantial stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, when in doubt, ask, get a definitive answer from somebody and make them tell you you're going to put this date in there and try to get it in writing too. You're going to put this date there and that date for your rescission date.
Okay, and that gives me a new question. And if I'm hired by a signing service, in my mind, that is my contracting company.
Right.
And it is not, I feel at odds of being told to call the title company or the lender because they're not my contracting company.
Yes, you should always contact your signing service. Now, I get it. Not all signing services are, equal, and a lot of them are unresponsive.
Mhm.
A lot of those unresponsive signing services clients are now mine too,
Okay.
because of that. So, yes, most I can tell you, because I don't want to sit here and tell you guys you can't get an answer. Just go to title directly.
Mhm.
Like if push came to shove, is that what I'm going to do? Absolutely. I know the severity of some of these situations because I sat with them at the bank. And if I need an answer, I need an answer. But yeah, always, because your contracting company, if they don't know, they should be going to title to get that question answered. And a lot
You
of
and I
the
are in agreement.
notaries on our orders, I don't know everything. I get these questions and I'm like, good question. I don't know. I'm going to put it on title. If I'm not confident enough in my answer, I'll put it on title. You guys, you need to let me know what to do in this situation.
Okay. It bothers me when a lender or a title company makes a mistake. And they don't seem to get the scrutiny that a notary gets if the notary makes a mistake.
I'm gonna answer that one.
Maybe.
It bothers me too. I have to say, we are working on education with title companies in the background. We have some things that are coming out this year, and we're working with education, what we call from the top down. I have to tell you that it bothers me too, but one way that we can kind of work together on that, guy, as a community is to start educating exactly how much training that we do, exactly what we're doing for them at the table, make friends and relationships with lenders and realtors and title companies, and go to dinner with them and have conversations about, first ask them what their day is like, and let them tell you how they get yelled at and pushed around and hair pulled along the way. And then you know what? There you got your common ground right there. When Travis and I go to dinner with an escrow officer, it's almost like sharing stories of war wounds. And I think you're gonna, be able to work if we were all working with our clients and talking about how hard it is for their job, number one, and then them hearing our job. Don't forget that you can be professional and make friends with your clients when you're working with them. And you can, share those types of things, and you might start to see those relationships change. I think Travis and I have actually tamed a few escrow officers and lenders in our day, don't you think, Travis?
Plenty.
Yeah, you can train your clients that you're working with just by getting to know them and having that common ground of, and there's that old saying that SHIT rolls downhill. Well, you can kind of prevent that by kind of sharing your, invite them to lunch. I used to have an escrow officer after she learned how this was for notaries. She goes, okay, sometimes I'm going to yell at you, and then I'm going to take you to sushi to say I'm sorry. And I was like, deal, done. I can deal with that. But until we start all having those collective conversations with title companies and lenders and realtors, not much is going to change. And I do feel about this industry, the biggest conversations that we see happening on the internet from notaries is make six figures, I made so much money, here's all the products we can do. But we're not having conversations on Instagram with title companies and lenders and realtors saying, this is what my job is really like, and I'd love to work with you and create a wonderful relationship with you. I think when we start having that kind of conversation on Instagram with our clients, they might look at us a little bit differently as well. So I encourage everyone, if everybody out here goes and make all 245 people left on the call was a little over 260. If all those people went out and made a nice little video for their clients on their Instagram, hashtag title and escrow about something that they could do, maybe people will start looking at us a little differently.
Quite true. More easy to do when a notary is working with title direct in their community, as opposed to a signing service that's out of state in Arizona or Michigan, and a title company that's in Florida or Kansas, and a lender that's in pick another state.
True.
Okay. This blacklist thing is troubling to me. It sounds to me like a guilty until proven innocent concept. Blacklisting, for an example, because the notary's fee is different than what the signing service offered. Signing service is offering $40 or $50, and notary says, no, I'm not going to take that assignment. And then they get blacklisted for a fee situation. That's just not, in my mind, what one signing service should be telling another signing service to tell a third signing service, because that's not an error of the notary. It is just a different business model.
I
Where
don't
the
think that
signing service
I don't think that
sees,
that happens quite often, Guy. In fact, when I see people being blocklisted, it's generally, and they actually put the amounts. Most of the time where I saw people was during COVID, when they tried to price gouge and say, oh, it's COVID, it's going to be $500 for a closing. And people were like, okay, well, you're working, so Why are you, I saw a lot of that happening where people tried to really use COVID to their favor right at the beginning. But then we found out, for those of us that stayed out in the field during COVID, we found out that it was just raining
You're
signings
ready
left
for
and
the
right.
show? No.
So no matter, no matter what, we were all making great money during COVID.
I'm almost done.
But I saw a lot of
10 minutes.
people, hold on, I'm gonna catch that. I think somebody was off mute there. But I don't see people really blocklisting, and I'll tell you why you don't have to worry about the real low ballers out there blocklisting you, because they're still praying you're going to take the order one day. They're still praying that they're gonna crack you, and that you'll take the order. So most people don't blocklist you for putting. Now I have had notaries who write back about unlimited ink fees, and they write rude things, and they say, you're a low baller. I admit I don't have the highest fees in the country, but I don't have the lowest either. I also don't have the highest paying clients in the country, but we do things on the up and up in honesty here, and we tell notaries when they're going to get paid, and they get paid in those time frames. I have had people write back and be mean, and then I take exactly what they wrote me and put it right into their profile and say, this is this is the person you're going to want to work with, whether you're paying them a good amount or a bad amount. So, you got to be careful about how you counter those offers. If you can say respectfully, my fee is this, I see that all the time. And Travis will tell you, not all the time, but we have notaries who counter every day and get that fee because we would rather work with a well-trained notary, and that's their fee in the area. Can't always say it, because if somebody's also well-trained and they accept the fee, we're going to accept those as well. But I don't think that you need to worry about people blocklisting you, and mostly because those notaries, those signing services are still hoping that they're going to break you.
Okay. I'm going to try to wrap two things together here, and I am aware that I'm taking a lot of time. But Travis talked about picky recording agent that would turn down a document. There is no way that a notary can be aware of which recording agents in a multitude of states and counties are picky. There needs to be some pushback against these individuals who have a power position, that they look at the structure is there's them, and then below them there's God, and then below God is everybody else.
Well, they're actually the ones that are sticking to precise regulatory requirements, while the rest of them are letting things like the letter A slide. And that's the whole issue with that, is the ones that are rejecting are the ones that are following the law to the letter.
And how is a notary that is taking orders across the country going to be able to stay current on the laws of each and every entity?
Well, sorry, I don't mean to trip you over, but I feel very passionately about this. So when I was out in the field in Arizona, and then I'll let you say this, I always felt that if it came from Arizona, I knew my state laws, and I have to uphold those first. Okay. When I look down and I see that this is closing in another state or county, I start looking for instructions, and I start asking questions, and I say, this is going to be done out of state. I did a Florida signing not knowing that I needed a witness years and years ago, because I'd never done one from Florida. I lived in California. Not that many people, the likelihood of me getting a Florida signing, not knowing I needed a witness, sent it back, and they were like, it's in the instructions. Now you got to do it all over again. You're delaying funding. And so I wound up having to do it. So when it comes from another state, you do need to kind of stop and think, number one, is it a witness state? And what does that mean? Is it only on conveyance deeds, or is it on mortgages? You start asking questions mostly about your critical documents, note, deed, all of those things. So when it's in your state, you're in a lot more control. But then when you get one from out of state, you got to start looking a little bit deeper. And then Miss Beth, sorry I cut you off there, but I'd love to hear what you have to say on that too.
Well, you don't really have to know regulations, notarial regulations for all 50 states. What you do have to know is a few real estate regulations, like whether a state requires a witness on a recordable deed. That's what we teach you here at Notary Stars, what to look for, where the pitfalls are, and where the holes are. once you know your own state regulations inside and out, the rest is a piece of cake. A few
Okay.
probate regulations, a few real estate regulations, and that's pretty much the whole ball game right there.
Okay. If I have time for one more, and if not, just say we need to move on.
Mr. Guy, we love you. We would love to hear it by email, but we got 4 more hands raised and
Okay, I'll
we
send
gotta
it to
keep
you.
those going.
I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Sophia Kelly, I'm sorry, girl, your hand is getting tired. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, yes. Hi, Beth. Ronnie, hi, everyone. Ronnie, I think this question is for you. As far as the eras and why we're having this training this evening, is it an era like you forget to initial in the auditor's call, or is it an error once it gets to the title company and the error is caught? Where does the error get caught that affects your score?
If you get the words notary error on your email, that's when it starts.
Okay.
And so another thing is signing agents say we need larger fees, we need larger fees, we need larger fees. Well, because of errors, I have to have a larger and larger staff. The bigger that we grow, I have to have more people looking at those scan backs. We get in troubles for clients because of notary errors. And so when a notary makes an error, it literally sometimes takes me, Travis, and another manager fixing everything out, parsing out documents, finding the error, sending the documents back. So it's a community effort. So that's why we're trying to just remind people that we don't want to hurt someone. We want to help someone with these questions, but it starts with when you made the error. And let me explain that a little bit further, and I'll make it quick because we're running out of time and I don't want to rush everybody. But you got to think about it. Let's just say it's you. I know that you're a great notary. We love working with you, but let's just say that you have an error and it requires you to go back to the signer. Okay. So you go and you come back and everybody misses a signature from now and then, but you go to the signer and then they've taken that time out of their day to sign. Then you have to go back and they may or may not get shipped on time. There may be a delay. They might hold funding over a single document. A lot of times they can do it with scan and then we get a shipping label to you, but we have to create another shipping label if it's a trailing document because a lot of lenders need the file in hand or at least have it tracking in order to fund. So it becomes like a trickle down effect. So it starts when the error is made. And, when you go back to a client, even if they're nice to your face, they may be thinking, I took time out of my day to get this done. I thought I was getting a professional notary. And that's what a lot of title companies, we teach them to say. Don't tell them that we're sending a notary. Let them know we're sending a professional signing agent to get this done for them. And then they have to take time out of their day again for the correction. And so it's a trickle down effect and it makes, everyone look bad. So the error starts when the error is found. And so I hope that helps answer the question there. Sorry, you were on mute there.
It does, but do you ever reach out to the notaries to just give them like a one-on-one because like you see something that's consistent?
No, because we have Notary Stars and we're training literally every single day live on the internet. So it would be so hard with 10,000 notaries and 450 clients going all over the country to pull one notary aside. But that's why we did Notary Stars so that we can reach as many at one time as possible. So, anytime you have, and I know that you're a part of the Notary Stars community, anytime that you have a question, you can come to any of the classes. It doesn't matter if we're teaching, there's a time and place for everything, but you can bring it to any of the classes, to any of the instructors. And we also have that support line where you can reach out and ask a question about that particular error and how can I make it better? That is a part of your membership as well, to have that support line that you can call in and use.
Okay. And I have something I want to leave with you because you spelled out when you were talking to the other gentleman's question, you said SHIT.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you something to use in place of that.
Okay.
Sugar, honey, iced tea.
Okay, got it. Sugar, honey, and iced tea rolls downhill. I got it. Thank you for that.
All righty. Georgie Brooks Newton. That's kind of fun to say.
It is, isn't it?
Would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Thank you. I appreciate this training this evening, but I only have one simple question. I've been doing signing agent for a while. When I first started, I understood that I was making mistakes and such, and you learn from your errors and you get better as you go along. But to this day, I've only seen one response. One response from a client in regards to my the work that I've done for them. Where do I find these scores in regards to seeing how what my quality looks like in regards to different agencies that I work with?
So currently on signing order, you aren't able to see your quality score nor in Snapdocs or any of the platforms. I'm a big proponent for the notary seeing it. You know, when you look at a Lyft or Uber driver, if they go below a certain quality score, they just get removed from the platform. And I'm working for more of a component like that and signing order. The reason that they don't put it in there is because if a notary sees their quality score go down, they get inundated with phone calls and they're like we can't handle that infrastructure. So it's meant to kind of help the signing service choose the notaries that they're going to hire. But ultimately, if we're all doing our job well, no news is good news. You're doing a good job. We don't live in a world where people call us and go, "Oh my God, you're so amazing," and errors seem to take up so much time. So if you're not hearing complaints, you should not worry about your score. You will know if you've made a complaint because someone has to confront you about it. They have to say, "You've made an error. I need you to go back." If you handle it as Miss Carol Ray from Notary to Pro, the late Carol Ray said, it's not the errors we make that people remember, it's how quickly we and professionally we remedy them. As long as you're living in that light, I promise you that you're not going to have as hard a time with a quality score if you're willing, to remedy anything. But if you're hearing error after error after error, and if you make 2 errors a month as a notary or 1 error a month, you've really got to start training and because the professional notaries that I know, I can tell you one, Heather Brown, right here in Phoenix, Arizona. I was with her when she got her first error, and I thought I was going to have to take her to the hospital. And she is by no means overreacting. She literally was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be sick." It was like watching an episode of Six in the City when Carrie has one of those panic attacks. She was just like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be sick." And I was like, "I got you, girl. I got you. We're going to get this corrected," because we were out prospecting for Unlimited Ink at the time, and she got her first error. So it happens to everyone. But if you have about one a month, I would say that that's too much, and that's where you're going to have to brush up and all of those things. But I've seen notaries on the brink of death of like, no one's going to ever hire me again. Come back swinging and be one of the greatest notaries. I've actually employed some of those. We don't throw notaries away here, which is why we have this tonight. And we encourage other signing services to not. But the conversation needs to come from you guys as well. Can't just be Ronnie Mickle sitting on his nice little cushy chair having this conversation. We need to have this kind of conversation as a community on LinkedIn. We need to have this conversation with all the platforms. We need to take ownership of the fact that we are the workforce. I might be a trainer, but you guys are the workforce. And you need to take pride in that and have this conversation with those platforms. I need to see my quality score so I can keep it up. I need to find out what's going on. So I want you to feel empowered with every platform that you're putting through business, saying, I need to be able to see my quality score so that I can. And I don't mean every individual signing service, signing order, ZigSig, Closewise, Snapdocs, Everyday Notary, anybody that has a Prestige, is it Notary Dash? Talk to the owners of those, talk to the support agents of those and say, we need to see our quality scores so we can be a better workforce. If you start having those conversations professionally, I will guarantee if we all started, even with 219 of us tonight, within a year, this will be a different conversation.
Awesome. Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. And I agree with Ms. Beth. I love your name. There's something about it.
Well, thank you. It's an old Southern name.
So I think Travis is still here.
Yes, I can tell that he's working with the team. He's like
What?
typing away.
What?
No, it's 6 o'clock. We're done for the day, right?
Geneva's got a question for you, Travis. Do you want to unmute Geneva and ask your question?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. My question is, I have two questions. That scoring on Snapdocs, what does that mean? You know, that percentage. Today you have 88%, the next day you have 97%. How do they determine that? Do you know?
That goes by your, I believe that the one that you're seeing on there is going by your response rate.
Yeah.
And so your response rate, that means that you're not responding to everything. And I have a little trick when I was out in the field. When I walk through the door every day, there was a literally there was a note on my refrigerator that said, close out every order on Snapdocs. And that means you go through your text messages, and even if it's past time, you put not available. So when you get home, because they do it based on response time. So whenever you close out your day, it's like a cashier, you count your money, you do whatever. I just went through and would say not available, even if I missed it when it came out. You still have to say wasn't available. So as long as you do that before midnight, your response rate stays up.
Okay. Next quick question. Travis, you mentioned something about initialing at the bottom of a deed of trust, but I saw something in the chat that said, even if it's not there, we're supposed to do it.
Don't
No.
do that.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. No. And because I have come across scans before where I see that, and we will send the notary back out. So only initial if initial lines are present. Now, the first 15 of the 16 pages of the deed can just be reprinted out, but problem is you still have to go back out, right? Because it's got a signature and a notarization on that page that it's compromised. So no, you don't want to treat that as over signing the document. Only initial if initial lines are present. That's the safest bet.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We got two more questions up, and I'm going to get you guys out of here. Team, I appreciate you guys staying a little bit later tonight. It's important that we answer these questions. Miss Field, when you are ready, you can ask your question.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having the session. I learned a lot of information, key takeaways. I had joined on a previous session, but my Zoom link was tied to my other account. And I wasn't sure what my ratings are. I updated it for this meeting, so I made sure that it's related to my notary signing account. So I'm not sure if you're able to see the information of what's on there and how my ratings are. I used to have a flood of signing orders, but it has diminished a lot. So I'm not sure if there's, excuse me, anything in addition that I need to do on my part.
So I'm just taking a quick look. So I can tell you that, and you're in Laurel, New Jersey, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's so funny. We got a Field and a Danielle. We got a Patrice Field and a Danielle Fields from New Jersey up here. Y'all should get together and find out how far y'all are from each other. Y'all could be the Field sisters. So I'm looking. You're in a good spot, and there's nothing that would be counting anything against you. Now, when I'm looking at this, and I just want to make sure while I do this, the only training that we see in there is the National Notary Association, which is a requirement. You have a extremely low order count, and so that means that you're probably getting started in there. You might see the orders, but no one's discounting you at all. By the way, you have a great profile photo. Looks great. Your information's in there. There's no bio at all. And
Okay.
that's going to be very important to put a bio in there. So even if people are seeing it, you've got everything in there except for any additional training and a bio. And that's gonna make a good world of difference for you.
Okay. And I am dual commission. I'm commissioned in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So I wasn't sure how to be able to get it updated so that I can get Pennsylvania signings as well.
You definitely need to do that, and I can see that your commission is not showing dual commission. So you want to reach out to support@signingorder.com and just let them know that you are looking to showcase dual. Now, I'm sure it's in the profile somewhere where you put it in there, but you may want to reach out to them to make sure that they are picking you up for dual commission. because there is a little button that lights up and it's not lit up for you right now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ronnie?
I don't want to make light of this entire situation, but when I'm looking at these, kind of feel like the Hollywood medium where I'm like, I sense this, and like I can see something that someone else can't see because it's not fair. But we do have our last question up for tonight. I am lowering the hand for Jennifer Bede. I apologize, but we kind of went over and Alicia kind of slid in at third. So Miss Alicia, you're going to be our last question for today.
Thanks, Ronnie. People were talking about their fees and such. I just got an email from an attorney that needs to do a simple process serving, and it's like really simple. And he said, "Let me know your fee." And I said, "What's your offer?" Always, it's called the porcupine. Throw it back. Never answer the question. Let them tell you what they're willing to pay. Because I was going to say 75, and he said 150. So there you go.
That's a good one. Thank you for sharing that. Miss Beth, I saw as I started to unmute Shalisha there, you were trying to say something on the last question. I want to make sure to hear it.
I was trying to get Kirsten to say something. There's been somebody in the gallery. What's her name?
Kathleen Schroeder.
She's had her real hand up for about 20 minutes. We've got to let her unmute and ask her question.
I've been trying to message her multiple times to tell her to put her hand up, but I know your hand is actually probably tired.
Yes, I'm gonna.
Oh, she can't unmute. I'm gonna ask her to unmute.
Yeah, there we go.
There. Hey, thank you. I kept looking and I couldn't figure out where the hand was, the virtual hand. So sorry about that. I'm Kathleen Schroeder from Oregon. And again, thank all of you. It's very, very informative. I appreciate it. I've just got a couple quick things. One would be very, very helpful if you know the title company is the escrow company, whatever, is wanting to get this funded and recorded off of our scans, if that could be in the instructions, especially if I know it, then urgency is even more important. And the documents that have to be recorded, I actually scan that document separate. So when it's in a bundle, that it's, in case if it comes in crooked or anything. So one thing that would help us as far as the notaries is to know that they're trying to close this that day on those scans.
Well, Miss Kathleen, I will tell you that you can tell because if you look at your closing disclosure and you look at your settlement statement, it's going to tell you the disbursement date. And never take for granted that if it's the next day that they might bump that up just because they got everything signed. So sometimes they'll streamline and go ahead with it if they get the scans. You should always consider every file like a hot potato, as Miss Beth says.
Mm-hmm.
Hot potato, hot potato. When you look down at the disbursement date, that's going to tell you when they're planning on to disperse that file. And if you see today's date, they're funding off the scans.
Okay. I appreciate that very much. And the other item is the 3D, actually there's two more. The 3D rescission. When I saw forgive me, is his name Patrick or Travis? When the date was crossed off and then another date was put on, which is initialed of the correct date, I was surprised they don't require that single line through to be initialed.
One set of initials by the struck date and the newly written one will suffice.
Okay.
You can do it twice. It probably wouldn't hurt, but I've never had it kicked back for it needing, both areas of attention being initialed. So as long as there's one by the transaction date and one by the rescission date, granted, they each had to be changed, perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then the other item is I'm noticing that various states, when people are signing as trustee or a manager, acting manager or successor trustee, not always are, some will require that they have to sign their title and some are not.
Okay.
So can you explain
Let me give you
why?
my opinion on that one.
Please.
So, and you know what, that's probably one I should do the next go around.
Okay.
So if you do not have instructions to include verbiage, trustee, don't do it. Title, okay, if you're doing a seller file or the title document, they're probably not going to care one way or another. Where it gets really picky is with the lenders.
Mhm.
And this is where an experienced signing agent comes into play, is read your closing instructions, because sometimes it's buried in those 8 pages of closing instructions.
Yeah.
Ask your contracting company as well, but we put in our instructions, under any circumstance, unless you specifically have instructions telling you to do it this way, just sign their name only, because it is very rare that I get a lender package back that wants the borrower to sign trustee. I see it most on reverse mortgages, but maybe one time every 3 months do I see a lender want that. I've got a whole process with my team too, because sometimes title will put in instructions to include trustee by the signature, and I know it's a lender that doesn't want that, and I have to go back to them. I'm like, look, you're telling them to sign Jane Doe, comma, trustee. I go, number one, does the lender want that? Number two, what signature lines do you want that at? Because not all of the documents are drawn in the capacity of a trust. Because if I get an inexperienced notary, or just a moderate notary on that order, because we've had them come back, sign name, comma, trustee on everything, and then all of a sudden falls apart. So safest bet, guys and gals, anybody listening here, if you are not sure and there is nothing indicating for them to put managing member or trustee after the signature, just name only. That is the safest bet. Absolutely. It's easier to add it than take it away in that situation. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Yeah, you betcha.
And could I ask one more thing? One more question?
Go for it.
By any chance, are you able to look me up to see if I had any negative things?
So Miss
Ronnie, I'll let you
Kathleen,
spearhead that.
Miss Kathleen, I'm going to tell you, I'm already starting to get emails about this, and during the session I did do a few, but the last session I spent 4 days after. I'm not going to be going over anybody's profiles. You would know if you have, and walk with confidence on this. You will be the only person. You can send me an email directly, Ronnie at Unlimited Ink Notary. I can only tell you what we have or don't have for you. If there's other things, I can give you guidance in other ways. You can email me. Actually, the best direct email for you to remember is contact@notarystars.com. That goes directly to me. For anybody that sent an email or what have you already, because I can see them piling up. I'm only doing this because Miss Kathleen didn't know how to raise her hand early in the session, and she was literally holding her hand up. So when we usually say your hand's getting tired, that's a virtual hand. So you want a free pass with my heart because you were literally holding up your hand that entire time. That is like punishment. So you deserve a little special attention. So contact@notarystars.com goes directly to me, and I will get with you. But I'm not going to look at everybody's profiles and all of those things. This session is so that anything that we've done so far up to this point in the year, we're erasing, and you guys can have a fresh start. Now, the key is, guys, it can start over again. We can erase everything tonight, and it'll usually take a day or two for the team to go through everybody's profiles. We can erase everything tonight, but then you start again tomorrow. You make another error, and it starts over for you. And we don't do this but every 3 months. So this is allowed for you to get that history nice, crisp, and clean. With that said, first of all, I want to thank everybody here from Notary Stars. I know Amy, Beth, Travis, Kirsten, Manuel, thank you guys for being with us tonight. I'm going to ask everybody else to please turn on their cameras. This is the most pages I've seen with cameras on tonight, and I know everybody's trying to get credit, but for those of you over on page 9 or 10, let's go ahead and turn on those cameras because we're going to do our signature wave here. We want to wave to each other, wave to those future notaries that are going to be watching this and learning for the very first time. Wave to your notary friends and family. I'm going to scroll through so that they can see everybody waving. Come on, everybody. I want pages. I'm on page 4. Come on, page 5. I need page 5 to light up. Come on, Ken. Come on, Alina. Come on, I want to see those pages light up. I'm on page 6. Come on, Lena. Come on, Dee Dee. Let's turn on those. I'm seeing page 6 light up, guys. Come on. Let's get it all lit up tonight so that everybody can see your light shine. All right. Now let me get back to page 1 here so I can say good night. Thank you so much for dedicating yourself to excellence. I'm going to put up a message now so that you guys can see how to download the chat. Should you want to take it with you. But as we learned earlier, there may be some misinformation from people typing, but it's important that you be able to go back and see that information. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to leave this chat up as the song plays us out tonight. Hope you all have a wonderful night, and thank you for spending your time with us.
Bye, guys.